Yeah. Okay. So we do initially, I don't think we did it last time, but initially we usually do some sort of a grounding or centering exercise to bring us back into our bodies. I like to remind people that we haven't actually evolved to move at the speeds in which we travel in vehicles. Our biology still can't really comprehend moving at speeds over 10 miles an hour. So we might physically arrive someplace, but not yet feel like we're there. Okay. You can imagine if you went somewhere on a horse or in a covered wagon, by the time you got there, you're like, oh, finally. Right?
Yeah.
You know you're there. It took you a long time to get there. But we just hop in the car and zip. Right? So it's kind of like giving, doing this really self-compassionate thing, giving ourselves a chance to catch up, to arrive, to let our nervous system catch up to where the rest of our body is. Okay? So I'd like to welcome you all here and welcome everyone at home and invite you to just become conscious and aware of your chair and of the contact points, right? The pressure points that you make with the chair, and also of the old reliable ground underfoot. Noticing solid, stable ground. It's not moving, it's always there every time you put your foot out. And just letting yourself take a quick survey. How present do you feel right now? See what percentage pops up for you. How much of you feels like it's actually here in the room with no judgment, just noticing. And then letting yourself become aware of or shift your awareness to noticing the room, right? Feeling yourself in the room, the feeling, the internal felt sense of being in the room. And then pulling your attention back to yourself and noticing your chair again and anything at all that resembles comfort or support in the chair, and seeing if you can allow yourself to take that in just to the extent that that feels okay to you to take in comfort or support from the chair. You don't have to take in all the chair offers, just the amount that you want. And then let your attention come back outward into the room. Letting yourself be aware of others in the room. Noticing the felt sense of that. And seeing how the sense of others in the room shifts when you realize friends, right, versus foe, friend, or like minded people, all choosing to be here and hold space for a common purpose. and taking in anything that feels like comfort or support, only as much as you want to, from that awareness. And then bring your attention back in to self and noticing in this moment the felt sense of being here in the room, and in your chair, simultaneously in connection with yourself and the room and others here in the room. And then take a survey again for yourself, just information. How present do you feel now? What % present do you seem to feel now? And then go ahead and just rest. Relax your attention. Just let it be however it would like to be now. So this is a way of increasing our awareness, our presence, helping us make transitions. We can do something similar to this, even a very shortened version of it, just by taking a survey. Sometimes we can increase our felt sense of being here and now just by checking, just by assessing it. They do this thing, it's been well studied. People that are interested in losing weight, they will have them keep a food journal. No other rules, no other directive. And by and large, they all lose weight. There's something about bringing awareness to what's happening in our experience that seems to assist the change, assist the movement of energy. Okay, and this is paradoxical. We're not taught this. We're very much into doing and fixing and changing everything, right? If we don't like something, we feel a little bit dissatisfied, let's jump right in there and whip it into shape, right? We don't really wait. We don't waste any time. So this can be a practice all by itself, right? What happens if I, instead of doing what I usually do in this moment, the urgency that I'm feeling, what if I give myself a moment to become really present? What if I help my body, help my nervous system become really present? And then see what seems possible in that moment. Any questions? So I promised you guys that I would share my hypnosis experiment. I went to a hypnotherapy session, and there is definitely, because someone asked a question in here about how meditation, I don't think the person is here today, how meditation is different, for instance, guided meditation. Because when you go online, or when you go like on this Insight Timer app that I use to time our meditation, it's got, you can choose hundreds of guided meditations. You can just stream it and listen. And because, you know, anybody can make a meditation, that doesn't mean that it's a good one for you. And sometimes people have some interesting stuff happen after they do a grief meditation or forgiveness meditation. So you want to be careful about that. But I think the question was about something about the quality. Like, do you get a deeper or better meditative state from listening to certain kinds of music, or, somehow having a guide get you to certain kinds of states? And I was mentioning that I've been accused of using hypnosis in the meditation that you guys have, I think most of you have experienced the guided meditation. That is, it's our usual. It starts with a body scan and then some breath awareness and then expanding awareness to the whole environment, everything in the present moment. And then we introduce that question from the True Meditation book. What if I allow everything to be as it is in this moment? What would the experience of that be? And that some things like paying attention to the body from here and then moving down has this sinking or dropping, relaxing into the body kind of feeling. But I got to experience that there's definitely a difference between the meditation that we're doing. It isn't, I'll just reassure you, what we're doing in here is not hypnosis. And if you were being hypnotized, you would know it. So it's very explicit. I think there's a whole list of questions to rate your suitability or suggestibility, and then there's an exercise of, from just the power of suggestion when you're sitting there with your arm there on the table. Well, can your arm raise into the air just from and I didn't think mine would, and it did. And I was like, I'm not raising it. It has to do it on its own if it's going to do it. And it did. And I was like, wow, looky there. And then we moved to the chair, and I didn't really feel like what was happening was deeper than any meditative state that I have been in. There were suggestions made. They were very vague about opening to being able to see new perspectives and new insights and stuff. But because I am a skeptic and I am a licensed therapist, I really have my doubts and questions about the advisability of opening up, if it does open some sort of barrier between conscious and subconscious, and you have any kind of trauma, or you suspect that there might be stuff you're suppressing, I'm not sure how wise it is to go and do hypnosis with someone who is not. I don't know if somebody could be a trained therapist and also a hypnotherapist. I think there are some, but I think you want to be very careful.
So you don't want to open up that door without somebody being there with you to help get through that.
Right.
Yeah.
Somebody trained, somebody who knows what to do when the trauma comes up. And same reason I call this meditation class trauma informed, because lots of people out there teaching meditation. The very first mindfulness-based stress reduction course I took, the person had training but was not a therapist. And when my great gobs of grief came up suddenly, like the 5th class, they didn't know what to do with it and said, it won't hurt you. Well, I wasn't believing that. And it was years before I meditated again, because I didn't have the capacity. I mean, wisely enough, I knew, right? Without even knowing, right? The knowing was not going there. That kept me away from meditation for quite a while, until I was in a different place. So I think, this is not to warn anyone away from anything, but just go in eyes wide open and know that if your stuff comes up, because, you know, my training is teaching me that it's all connected. We can't pretend to separate our thoughts out from the rest of our experience and just, oh, I'm going to change this thought pattern, this thought process. That thinking pattern arose out of some powerful feeling or belief in here, right? And we can't change this for the purpose we want to change it. We usually want to change this so we can change something out here, right, in our life. But we can't just change this and then have it still be in disagreement with this, right? If the felt sense says no way, we can believe all we want that it's healthy and good and happy and cool, but this is not, it's only going to let us get so far. That's called cognitive dissonance, when this doesn't match this, right? And maybe you've experienced that at some point in your life, you know, where some part of you says, oh, this is completely rational, but for some unknown reason, you can't get the rest of you to agree, right? Where it doesn't matter what it is, like to eat healthier or, you know, do something that seems perfectly rational or logical to us. Okay.
So will meditation get the two together? Or is that only through therapy? Will the two?
Well, I think it depends on the level of the trauma, right? Some stuff we can sit and be with and watch it shift, watch it transform. And other stuff, we sit with it and it just sits right there and doesn't move, right? Big old lump or a block or a, you know, whatever it is. We can sit down and it's still there every time we come and sit with it. And so that could be an indication that we're not meant to do that particular piece alone. And I've heard it said, Peter Levine, who's the somatic experiencing father, yeah, that he thinks we're not wired to heal our trauma alone. We are mammals and humans, right? We're very social creatures. We're wired for connection. We don't really do well in isolation. So that's, and I still don't understand. I can share with you as I learn. I intend to investigate a little more, but it's not number one on my priority list. What the connections are between hypnosis and meditation and the trauma work that's at the nervous system level. I don't entirely, and the person I worked with couldn't explain to me. And that was another red flag for me, that they couldn't explain how what we were doing might be connected to trauma or impact it. So we had another question in one of the last couple classes about what do we do when because one of the previous classes, the suggestion made for practice was to notice the compassion that's already there. You know, we're really hard on ourselves. And what if we just notice, for instance, when we're exiting the highway and there on the ramp is the guy with the cardboard sign, right? And we don't do anything or don't know what to do or feel anxious about what to do. And the homework recommendation was to notice just that the noticing is there, that movement outward of the compassionate response is there, even though we don't know what to do. We don't know what is the right thing to do. Or, I mean, we can't take the guy home with us, right? We don't know if we give money, is that what that's going to be used for? And do we want to support that? right? And is that judgment? And is that enabling, right? All those questions. And it's not an easy thing to do, but the questioner came back and said, okay, so I did that thing. I noticed the compassion going out toward the homeless person. And then what do I do now? Now what do I do? And I think it's so lovely. This question came up in another setting that I was involved in, and it came up again in this book. So this is Brene Brown's Rising Strong. It's a good follow-on to Daring Greatly. And in this book, she talks about dealing with vulnerability and the struggle to make ourselves more vulnerable, and in so doing, achieve greater connection with ourselves and others. She's a researcher, she's a social worker, and she discovered accidentally, I think, in her research. Well, I mean, in the field of social work, one of the things we know, the contribution from social work, is this discovery that social support is like, that's it. I saw a statistic not too long ago that said social support is more predictive of mortality and health than this whole list of things. And one of the things on the list was smoking 9 cigarettes a day. Yeah, I didn't want to believe it either. That's how important social support is.
Say that again.
That social support is more predictive of health and mortality, so that's longevity, than smoking 9 cigarettes a day. I don't remember the other things on the list. The other ones made sense. That one blew me away. And I can dig it. I can dig this statistic back up. It's from Chris Kresser. He's a naturopathic doctor, and one of his newsletters had that. So she's busily studying connection, like what's it all about, and she stumbles the story she tells, and you can go on the TED Talk website, and she's got 2 TED Talks, and they're fantastic. Watch them in the order that she made them, because there's the one talks to the experience from the first one, so they make more sense if you watch them in the right order. But the gist of it is she discovered that there was a connection between feeling connected and the ability to make oneself vulnerable. And in that dynamic, shame is a really important factor. So more shame, right, makes sense. Less ability to make ourselves vulnerable. The higher the shame is, the less we're going to risk and put ourselves out there. And then, paradoxically, the less connected we feel, right? So the more isolated we become, and then the more shame we feel, the less we put ourselves out there, right? And she was interested, so then she started to study, well, what makes some people able to live what she calls wholehearted lives. So fully connected and also able to risk, also able to make themselves vulnerable. Something about their, right, about their makeup made it easier for them to risk. So as she discovers all the little bits and pieces that are part of this story about vulnerability and shame and connection, she talks about and uses stories about how it has impacted her life and her process of discovering and getting better at being wholehearted, letting herself be vulnerable. And she tells lots of funny stories. So She's very entertaining and very engaging, both in her writing and as a speaker. So I highly recommend that you look it up. Brene Brown is her name. So she happens to have a story that talks to the question of what do we do? And I think that question comes up a lot. And it comes up in this setting a lot, I think, because people feel safe enough to say it out loud, right? Because we're talking about how do we get to our most authentic self, our most authentic being. And these are real things. What do we do when we notice someone else in need, or we perceive that someone else might be suffering? So what she discovered, and I think it's a whole chapter of 9 months that she went through this sort of wrestling with what is going on when she keeps watering granola bars in her car, right? So if she sees the homeless person, she like rolls down the window and hands, right? So that's getting around the money question, right? But she noticed that she had trouble making eye contact. And that was the beginning of her, what she calls her rumble, her wrestling with this, what's going on there? When I'm all about connection, and yet I'm disconnecting with when it comes to people in need. And I've worked in other settings, she says, where I've been able to stay fully present with someone in deep need or suffering. And so what's going on in that moment? And what she discovered, and what is supported by my research and my experience as well, is that her inability to be with, confront, acknowledge her own need made it impossible to look someone in the eye who is in need. Right. And I'll let you consult the book if you want to find out what the circumstances were that let her see and come into contact with her own need. And she describes one of those things being an over-functioner, right? One of those people who, when there's a crisis, right, they just take over. Right? I don't need, I take care of everyone else who needs. And so I think this brings us back to the thing that we started to talk about a little bit at the end of the last class, which is, being self-compassionate and stopping, slowing down to be in the present and to notice, wow, I'm always living in the past or the future, right? I'm in this race. And then we slow down, and what catches up with us? Stuff that we might not want to look at. And what do we do when the negative emotions come up? What do we do when we're confronted with something like the prospect of our own need? There's a reason why it doesn't quite feel right when we start to feel complainy about something that's not going right with ourselves, and then we go, oh, well, it could be worse, right? There's starving children in Africa. Or, oh, look, there's this person who doesn't have the use of all their limbs, or has some kind of impairment that they live with. And so, right, I can't complain because it could be worse. I could be that person. And there's a reason that doesn't feel great to us to do that. I mean, there's something that's, it's like we want to feel better about it. And at the same time, right, we know, even if we don't know exactly what it is, something's not quite right about comparing ourselves to someone less fortunate right? And it's our relationship to need, right? How do we deal with our own need? So I'll leave you with that, and you can explore that and come back and share or ask more questions when we meet next time. But I'll leave you with that thing to wrestle with or contemplate. What's my response to my own need? Right? Is it harsh? Is it dismissive? Is it manipulative? Do I try to bargain with it? Right? Do I distract myself? Do I shame myself? Or something else? Right? Or do I not even have any idea what this lady's talking about right now? Okay? Yeah. The Christopher Germer book that I very often recommend, The Mindful Path to Self-Compassion, is a really good introduction to starting to become aware of the ways in which we relate to ourselves. The key here is that if we can't relate to our own need, then we actually can't relate well to the needs of others. We can't actually respond in a compassionate way. If we can't be self-compassionate, some part of us will be judging or expressing sympathy instead of empathy, right? And people know it. People know when it's sympathy instead of empathy. They feel it, they know it. They feel the distance that's there, right? It does not feel good. We know it when somebody's doing that to us. It does not feel good, right? Because one is poor you, and empathy is, me too. I get it. I get it. Okay. So we'll take a little break. I'll leave the book over here in case anyone wants to take a peek at it. And go ahead and stretch your legs, get a drink, and come back in 5 minutes or so for our guided meditation. Okay? And if you don't like the chair you're in, if it doesn't feel comfortable enough, find one that's better. If it's too comfortable, find another one.
Something leaves and come back.
That's possible. Okay.
How do you spell Germer? Is it
Germer?
Oh,
Germer. Uh-huh. He has on his website a bunch of self-compassion meditations that you can listen to for free, and they're fairly short, so they're useful. And I like his voice too. I think his manner and his, I don't know, his energy is really nice.
That goes a long way.
Yeah. Germer, Germer.
And what was the name of it again?
Mindful Path to Self-Compassion. And that's one of those books you don't just read it straight through. There are exercises throughout each chapter and at the end of each chapter, and you're supposed to pause and do those. Yeah, some of them are doing something. Some of them are writing exercises. Some of them are just notice, right, check for this when you go about your day or you go through your day.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And what about the talks you said that were?
Oh, Brene Brown.
Renee.
Brene, Brene Brown.
And they were
TED Talks. Uh-huh.
Did she just come out with that book? You know?
That's the most recent one, yeah. I've got The Gifts of Imperfection is over there on the shelf. You could, if you want to check that one out of the library, you're welcome to do that. Leave me a Post-it that says your name and that you have, which book you have. Oh, okay.
I'm dying that for as much as I can read,
Mm-hmm.
and as much as I like to read quickly, my favorite, I love nonfiction. That's my favorite thing. All time, and anything nonfiction, I'm in. But I'm finding more recently how much I'm rushing when I'm reading at different points, and I'm not absorbing, or I am somehow getting ahead of myself when I want to sit and really take it in.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm just becoming more aware of if I'm not reading with the purpose of fixing something, I'm not able to sit and just enjoy the aspect of reading and enjoy the experience of what it's bringing up. I didn't realize that everything I did was read with purpose of finding the tool to find the bandage.
Yeah. Yeah.
So those things are really deep, and they require that you take time to absorb what's going on.
What if you allowed for reading it just as much and taking in just as much as you're able at the time when you sit down and read? So at some moments you might take it in really deeply, and other parts you might not take it in. And what if that's okay? What if that's meant to be? What if the parts of you that know which parts you need now read those parts deeply, and the other parts aren't for now? Can you allow for that instead of forcing it all has to be deeply absorbed first time through?
I can try.
And these books tend to be different upon successive readings, right? Where you are, yeah, it means something different when you read from a different place.
Can I borrow this?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have it.
Yeah. Can you write me a note that says you have? Yeah, just write me a Post-it that says name and who has this book. Thank you. Sorry?
Do you have a meditation of your own? Because I was listening to Shakti like something. Did you take one of your own?
Why tape these? Okay. What's that?
Go ahead.
I have been asked to make a recording, and you've given me the incentive to the opening to follow through. Thank you. I have the microphone. I know what to record. So thank you.
Yeah.
If you were gonna seek out a format, what would it be? Would it be MP3 or would it be DVD or?
Well, I go through that timer myself. I've got that.
The Insight Timer.
Yeah, the Insight Timer.
Mm-hmm.
Is that where I saw it? I'm trying to remember where I saw it.
Audio?
Yours with your name on it. It had your name on it. I was scrolling down and it was
on here?
I'm thinking it was, yeah.
It
Or
was his-
YouTube.
Okay.
Where did you put it?
Well, I have one that it just has a picture on YouTube. It has a picture of the ocean, and then it just has a 20-minute guided meditation. Is that?
What's it called? Does it have? Because the one I saw said keep clean.
Yeah.
Wait, let me rub my eyes.
I didn't post it on there, but if someone has access, I don't know how.
You
I don't know how.
migrate without your moving it yourself. Yeah, I'm looking at all his, going through all his. Well, I've done one, I've done this one. Wait, what?
All of Adya's?
Well, not, yeah, he's got a. He's if you
Uh-huh.
type in under YouTube and you go
Oh, yeah.
audio meditation.
Yeah.
That's where I believe.
Well, it probably popped up because I give credit. I reference Adya in that, the listing of that meditation. Yeah. Because I don't know what the lines are. I don't know, like, can you copyright the phrase, allow everything to be as it is?
Yeah.
I don't know. So, are you guys okay with the temperature, or should I try to make it cooler?
It's good with the door open and just a little bit
Yeah,
of air
more
movement.
Okay.
moving air.
All right. So, I'm just going to ask real quick, is this your first time meditating, like ever?
Mhm.
Okay. So I'm just going to give a little bit of upfront instruction so that you'll know, right? It's not too much. And everybody likes the reminders of what they're supposed to be doing when they're meditating. Is this light on okay? Yeah. Okay. So, basically, this meditation is about not trying to control your experience. I think this is getting overpowering, so I'm gonna. This meditation is about developing a relationship. So it's training to develop a relationship with our experience that is not about trying to manipulate or control our experience. Getting familiar with being with whatever comes up, whatever thoughts, emotions, experiences come up. Can I just notice and non-judgmentally, in a curious and friendly way, be with whatever I notice? So with that in mind, the only job throughout the whole meditation that you have is just to notice. Even if thoughts keep happening, even if you feel restless, even if you feel sleepy, as much as you can, all you're going to do is try to notice sleepiness, notice restlessness, or boredom, or irritation, or whatever seems to be arising, and not getting too caught up in it or hung up on it, or trying to push it away, and just seeing what happens, right? Can you just allow it to be there? Notice how it manifests. Notice how it seems in your experience. And we're going to start with a scan that relaxes the body. The suggested posture is basically to be fairly upright with feet on the floor. People can sit however they want to. I'm not in charge of anybody's body. So the suggestion is feet on the floor. You can have shoes on or off, eyes open or closed. Suggested hand positions are anything that doesn't pitch your shoulders forward. So palms up or down on your thighs, or you can have your one hand resting inside one or the other. And you don't have to be too rigid in your posture, but also maybe not too slouched. And you can kind of feel how If you lean forward, your attention tightens up a little bit. And if you lean back, it gets a little sleepy, a little woozy. And you want to be just in the middle somewhere between relaxed and hanging on too tightly. Okay. So we'll just start with turning our attention to the top of our heads. And I'll start the meditation timer so our bodies know what we're about to do. And the bell will sound 3 times at the end. I'll give you a warning. You'll know it's coming. So starting out, we're just noticing any sensations or anything at all that seems to be there at the top of the head, whether that's tingling or tension or coolness or warmth. Heaviness, vibration, anything at all. Being as friendly as we can with whatever seems to be there, even if that's nothing, even if we sense nothing there, and letting our attention move down gently, shifting to notice the face. Any sensations there in the face, places we carry tension around the eyes or the mouth. We might experiment with voluntarily relaxing the eyes by letting eyes sink back into their sockets, or the mouth or jaw by letting the tongue go completely limp, relaxed in the bottom of the mouth. And then just noticing what that does to the muscles of the face, jaw, neck. And then preparing to gently shift attention again to begin noticing the sides of the head. Noticing anything that you find there, being as friendly as possible. And if there's any tension there in the temples or the sides of your head, you could imagine letting your ears drop slightly. And seeing what that's like. Does that release any tension there in the temples? And then leaving any remaining sensations there on the sides of the head, right there where you found them. Letting your attention shift around to notice the back of your head and the back of your neck. And if you find any tension or discomfort there in the back of the head or neck, you might make a request for some relaxation in that area. And then see if you can open to receive whatever happens next. Being as friendly as you can. Curious. Just noticing. And then as you feel ready, prepare to shift your attention to begin noticing your shoulders and arms. And you're going to let your attention scan down the length of your shoulders and arms, starting at your neck. Letting attention roll down across the tops of your shoulders. Pausing to notice your shoulder joints. And scanning down your upper arms. Pausing at the elbows, noticing the elbow joints. Scanning lower arms. Pausing at the wrist. And then letting your attention scan from your wrists across all the bones and joints in your fingers to the tips of your fingers. And then let yourself become aware of your entire arm, left and right. And then at the same time, noticing whatever seems to be there, coolness or warmth, tingling, vibration, feelings of space or flow. Restlessness, achiness. Just doing your best to notice in a friendly way whatever seems to be there. And then preparing to shift your attention again to notice the core of your body, the center. Starting at the throat and scanning downward. Noticing your chest and heart area. Diaphragm, or that space between your chest and your belly. Right, and then noticing your belly all the way down to your lower abdomen. Feeling yourself seated in the chair, supported by all the muscles of your core, your hips. And then scanning down the back side of your body, noticing your upper back. Between the shoulder blades. And down toward the middle of your back. And then noticing your lower back. All the way down to where you're seated in the chair. Pausing to take note of any areas of tension. Sometimes we have an armor of tension in the front of our bodies. You could experiment with letting your belly soften, loosen. Or letting the throat loosen. Or what happens if you imagine an opening in the heart area, a loosening or opening in that area. If if there are any areas of discomfort in the front or back of your body, you could take a moment to imagine breathing in and out from that spot. And then just see what happens next as you breathe in and out of that spot. And just taking another moment or so to be aware of the center of your body, core of your body, and gently preparing to shift your attention again to notice your legs. Starting with where you are seated in the chair, noticing the tops and backs of your upper legs. And then pausing at the knees, noticing the knee joints. And letting your attention scan down calves and shins. Until noticing meets the floor in your ankles and heels, pausing there at the ankle joints, and then letting your attention continue all the way to the tips of your toes. And then bringing awareness first to left leg, from your bottom all the way to the tips of your toes, and then right leg, and then feeling both legs at the same time. And checking, just like you did with your arms, for anything like coolness or warmth, tingling or tension, vibration or flow. Restlessness or tension. Or maybe you find none of these things at all. And then gently preparing to leave whatever sensations you found there in your legs, right there where you found them. Let your attention start to move upward toward the place where you sense breathing happening. Letting your awareness rest in the place where breathing seems to be coming from most strongly. Whether that's at the nose, cool air with the in-breath, warm air on the out-breath, or the sensation of chest or belly rising and falling. Or the sound or rhythm of breathing, and wherever that seems to be coming from. And perhaps letting yourself pause in the space at the end of your out breath, without trying to change the breath in any way, just noticing that breathing in and breathing out is happening all by itself. Letting yourself notice that space, that pause, the stillness at the end of the out breath. And as you rest here in your breath, sort of like you would rest in a comfortable chair, see if you can notice or allow into the space of your awareness other things that seem to be happening in the present moment. So all of your senses could connect you with something here in the present moment. Sounds in the room or coming from outside the room, or the sound of my voice, or others breathing in the room. Whatever you seem to see, whether eyes are open or closed, patterns on the inside of eyelids, or things in the room. The temperature of the room, the smell of the room. Thoughts or emotions. Noticing how they come and go and allowing them to just come and go. And not worrying too much if you find that you have followed a thought or gotten carried away with some emotion. You can just come back and remember, all I'm doing is noticing. I'll just come back to noticing what's here right now. And to assist you even further in noticing what's here right now, if you want to, you can introduce this question into your meditation space. You could ask, what happens if I allow everything to be as it is in this moment? And there's not an answer to this question because the answer changes based on your moment to moment experience. So every moment might be a new experience of allowing everything to be as it is. And so you're just checking, what is the experience of being without effort, of not trying to control anything, what happens when I stop struggling for a moment? What if I weren't in opposition to anything in the present moment? What would the experience of that be? And sometimes when we ask this question, what arises is silence. Or a feeling of space or spaciousness. Feeling of rest or peace. And there's no right answer. What happens if you let go even of the meditator? If you keep coming back to this question, what happens when I allow everything to be as it is in this moment? What is the experience of that? And you have to check your experience and just notice it. It's not a question that's answered with words. It's answered by noticing. Noticing what is happening. And as we come to the end of this meditation, you're just going to take 2 more minutes to savor whatever the experience is of allowing. Whether that's space or peace. Letting yourself savor or soak in the experience and notice you didn't have to do anything to get to this place. You only had to do nothing. And you can set an intention for yourself. You can ask this question anytime, any moment. You can conduct this experiment by asking, what happens if I allow everything to be as it is in this moment? What would the experience of that be? And then preparing to shift out of your meditative state by sending some energy into your arms and legs and offering gentle movement to fingers and toes and letting yourself have as much time as you need to transition from this space, being gentle. It's so nice to be with you all this evening. Thanks for coming. Namaste.
Thanks.
Thank you.